Okay. So we'll start with the Mangla Charan. Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam साधवेतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखामितांश हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome you all, Prabhujis and Matajis, on the very auspicious day of Ekadashi also today. So let us pray the Lord that we can discuss something about the words of the Lord, and then it can transform our life. So today we are going to read shloka from 51 to 56, and these three shlokas are together, and it is in continuation of the actual perfection of knowledge is in attaining pure Krishna consciousness. So being just having the knowledge without using it in the service of the Lord is of no use. And then there are different degrees of the knowledge also. But the epitome, the most highest of them is getting the pure Krishna consciousness. And how do we get that? What is the advantage of getting that? Okay. What are the symptoms? All those things we are going to discuss in these 6 shlokas. They are very, very, very important shlokas. Okay. Especially 18.54 and 55 are like very well-known, most often quoted shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So, and this 51 to 53 is setting the foundation of them. Okay. So the following verses are going to describe pure Krishna consciousness, which is the perfection of the knowledge. So I'll read the purport. We'll try to read that, and then we'll read the translation and the purport followed by that. Buddhayo Vishodaya Yukto Dhrityatmanam Niyamacha Shabdadin Visayam Tyaktva Raga Dvesha Vyadusya Cha Vivikta Sevi Laghav Ashvi Yata Vak Kaya Manasaha Dhyana Yoga Paro Nityam Vairagyam Samupashritaha Ahankara Balam Darpam Kamam Krodham Parigraham Vimuchya Nirmamaha Santo Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Yes, so let me request. Yes, Krishnamurti Prabhuji, you want to read the translation and the purport, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yes.
Translation by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada ki jai. Being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being free from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secure place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Shall I read Prabhuji?
Yes, Moji, you can continue. Yeah, Prabhu.
Prabhupada ki jai. When one is purified by intelligence, he keeps himself in the modes of goodness. Thus one becomes the controller of the mind and is always in trance. He is not attached to the objects of sense gratification, and he is free from attachment and hatred in his activities. Such a detached person naturally prefers to live in a secluded place. He does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activities of his body and mind. He has no false ego because he does not accept the he does not accept the body as himself, nor has he a desire to make the body fat and strong and by accepting so many material things, because he has no bodily concept of life. He is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of the Lord, and he is never angry in the absence of sense gratification, nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he completely free from false ego, he becomes non-attached to all material things, and that is the stage of self-realization of Brahma. The, the stage is called the Brahma Bhuta stage. When one is free from the material conception of life, he becomes peaceful and cannot be agitated. This is described in Bhagavad Gita 2.70.
Apuryamanam achalam pratistham samudramapah parvishanti yadvad
Tadvatpamayam pravishanti sarve tasatim
nasantim apnoti nakama kami. Yeah, Prabhuji.
A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, one thing that I really wanted to highlight is this one becomes a controller of the mind and energy. Okay. So, yeah. Yes. He does not accept the body as the himself. So, this is something where our entire Bhagavad Gita, almost second chapter onwards, we have read this thing and came across so many times. And even when we have reached to 18th chapter, yes, because this is the root cause of all the problems. See, if we consider ourselves this body, then all our actions, our full faith, our consciousness, mind absorption, everything will be in the direction of how I can keep this body strong enough so that I don't have to become weak, I don't have to face the hunger, I should be, if any disease come, I should be able to, overcome that easily. My body should be, so we do so many things to take care of the body. Okay. Now, the moment we think that we are not this body, but this body is just an instrument, okay, like any other instrument. For example, I will tell you one small incident. Once I visited I was traveling officially, and I got a chance to stay in ISKCON Karga temple. It is in Navi Mumbai. Okay, so there I met a devotee who was always serving, and then he used to hear some bhajans or lectures all the times when he was serving. And then one day I found he was going from the temple, and the gate, there are one is main gate, which is always the wide one and open always. There was a side gate also, and he has to go pass from there to some other area for serving more. So when he was going, somehow his that earphone lead got stuck into the door of that when he was passing through, and because he was moving in hurry, so it got stuck and broke. So if the one thing I saw this incident about maybe 3 or 4 years back, okay, but it is very much live in my memories. Okay, why? Because of the fact that that Prabhu did not take even 2 seconds, even 1 second, to see what has happened to his that earphone lead. Okay, he saw it is broken, and within less than 1 second, okay, he just threw it in the dustbin, and then he continued for his service. Why we are discussing this thing is because that was very nice example of detachment. He was using it in the service of the Lord, but the moment he found, okay, it is not there, we don't have to lament, oh, this was so useful, okay, and it is not easy. Okay, so similarly, that small earphone lead is an example. Okay, there are things which are very dear to ourselves. We were discussing in Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto 10th chapter shloka from 1 to 10, where Dadichi Muni, right, he was asked by Indra for giving up his body, so that there was an arrangement of the Lord that from the bones of his body a weapon will be created, Vajra, that will be used to kill Vitrasura. Okay, so we will not go into that pastime. Idea is Dadichi Muni happily, okay, he told, I feel like everybody else, my body is very dear to me, but because anyway it has to go one day, why not it to be used in the service of the Lord? Okay, and then he gave up his body. So these examples, starting from that Prabhu in ISKCON Kharkar and Dadichi Muni, right? These are the live examples. One we read in the Shastras, and the other with the arrangement of the Lord, right? We see them around us. So this is repeated so many times. Why? Why it is repeated? Because if we do not, it has to be repeated until we are fully convinced. Okay, until we understand the repetition is required, and when we have understood, then we will find the repetition even more soothing. We will be even more convinced. Okay, so we must be very, very clear that we are not the body. Okay, and see, the reason why when we hear it more and more, we get more and more convinced, because it is our responsibility. Srila Prabhupada says, when we are in the association of the devotee, yes, we are hearing the Shastras, we are reading about the pastimes of the Lord, but then our final journey, we have to cover by ourselves. For an example, there are aeroplanes on the airport, multiple different countries aeroplanes are there, different companies, right? So many. So all those aeroplanes, all those pilots, they can speak to each other when they are on the airport. But once the aeroplane takes off from the runway, then each aeroplane is an individual. They have to take care of them by themselves. So it is very important that we first rise to the mode of goodness, because then only we can discriminate and see the things as they are. But then gradually we have to move to the stage of Brahma Bhuta. Okay, and whom do we call as Brahma Bhuta? We have discussed this shloka also multiple times. On the shore of the ocean, the waves will come and hit the shore. Okay, and so many times. Then we don't have to react. Like similarly, our mind, it will keep on giving so many thoughts. We don't have to react. The same way that the ocean remains peaceful, irrespective of how many number of waves comes. Okay, it does not lose its peacefulness. So similarly, the person on the Brahma Bhuta platform, okay, he will also get the thoughts, but he will not respond. Okay, so how is it possible? Okay, this is possible only by the mantra that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, which is Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amananina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. This is our only key, only hope. Okay, because until we understand ourselves something, we will not be able to come into the mode of surrenderness. If a beggar who is very humble by force, not by choice, if that beggar one day gets 5,000 rupees somehow, his intensity to ask others will be different. Okay, so thing is, we must have nothing. Okay, or at least we should be convinced whatever we have is of no use. Then only we can intensely pray to the Lord for his mercy. So the same way that we enter a temple, right, by keeping our shoes outside, similarly, when we enter, okay, into the temple, or when we start our japa, okay, or any devotional service, we must keep our shoes of false ego outside. Because with that material designation, we will think ourselves as something, and that something will unnecessarily make us not believe. Okay, I'm doing this service because it is good to do, but I can survive without that also. That feeling is very dangerous. Okay, we must be in the mood of Krishna, I am nothing. Okay, I am just an insignificant servant of yours. Because I have forgotten you for so many births, but now I'm in your shelter. Krishna will never forget that person, his prayers. Okay, it is said that humbleness has no lower limit. One can say, I am humble. Okay, we can still be more humbler, even more. So humbleness has no lower limit, and tolerance has no higher limit. We can be more and more tolerant. Krishna has been tolerating us, right? So the idea is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says we should take this Trinadapi Sunichena verse and wear it in our neck as a necklace, okay, and must not forget. That is the idea. So if we read the translation once more, okay, being purified.
Prabhuji,
Yes,
Prabhuji, for this Brahma Bhuta, we can call it self-realization also.
Yes,
the state of Yeah.
Yes, the person who is self-realized, yes, is at the Brahma Buddha. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. Thank you. So being purified, and these are the characteristics how he does. Being purified by his intelligence. Okay, we discussed, right? The perfection of the jnana is the Krishna consciousness. So being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with the determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification. Because now he knows whatever happiness we get, okay, in this material world, it is never pure happiness. It is always mixed. Okay, so it may sound very full of happiness, but the moment we actually get that object of happiness, we realize it comes with so many side effects. We can take any single example that we have ever come across in our life, starting from mobile phone to the TV to the newspaper to the so-called our material education. Okay, I heard it recently, like the education that we get in schools, okay, it is actually accumulation of avidya, because it makes us realize more and more that we are this body. Okay. What is the solution? We cannot either we should have that much conviction, okay, that we can survive completely without that so-called school education, or whatever, like Srila Prabhupada says, yukta vairagya uchyate, use your anything and everything in the service of the Lord. So study, see the consciousness, the attitude of bhakta, or the progress in Krishna devotional service depends on the attitude of the follower. This was also one very nice statement by Srila Prabhupada. So we can be doing the same thing of getting the same education, even more seriously, okay, but the purpose should be very firmly clear in our mind, that we are getting that so that we understand how, to what extent, because unless we see that thing from inside, how will we preach to the people who are reading it otherwise? So let us use those things as a tool, okay, to make our understanding more and more clear, so that other people who are also part of this, we can clearly tell them, and they get more convinced, because when we do the bhakti amongst the set of people, okay, then it is even more full of conviction than a sadhu who has given up everything, and then if he is going, because people, of course, it is most purifying, okay, but then people will not be able to correlate, in the sense that they will see this person has given up everything. For him, he has full time. Now he can do the bhakti even more peacefully. He has no other, though it is even more difficult, right, to survive, because challenges are there everywhere. Okay, but then Srila Prabhupada says we should enter into the heart of people like a needle and come out like a plow, like Balramji has the plow, right? So come out like that means we should be able to connect, because we are part of that, okay, but then finally we should propose a wonderful solution of Krishna consciousness to the people in our surrounding. So being freed from the attachment, this attachment is so deeply rooted in our hearts. When we see someone detached, it is like a shining star, sun. I mean, it cannot remain hidden. Okay, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little. Right? So this is also another important thing. Like many people we see, okay, they eat, okay, I mean, they live so that they can eat, okay, whereas the purpose of eating should be to continue to live, so that we so that we can keep our body and the soul together. Okay, we are living because again we can eat in the evening. Again we can eat in the evening. That is the purpose of living. That is not a very intelligent thing. Who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech. These are the three ways we can serve the Lord: our body, mind, and words. Depending on which place we are into, we are able to now use the power of speech by discussing about the words of the Lord. Okay. There are some times when we cannot speak much, right? If you are in a metro, train, or going somewhere, we cannot speak much. Let us offer our prayers in the mind, and wherever we get the service of physically serving, like cleaning the temple, helping in prasadam, and so many things, all are the different angas of the bhakti. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Anything that we know, it can be used in the service of the Lord. All we need is just the right consciousness. Who is always in trance. How the person can be in trance? Because now he is thinking himself, not as a body. So similar to that example of that Prabhu that we discussed, one day when this body is about to go, right? Because our consciousness remains with us. Fine. Body is like that earphone lead, right? So it is also broken, cannot be used. What next? Next body. What is the business? Business never should get impacted. Our business is to serve. So the change of the body is just the change of the service. We will serve the Lord in a different place. How we feel when we have our local Bhakti Vriksha, and then one day we have a bigger program in bigger pandal, or when we are doing Dhama Yatra. Okay, so we are the same person, right? Just we are in the different surroundings. Okay, our service remains same. We are just getting a different experience. That should be the mode of a devotee. And who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things. Who is free from the false proprietorship and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. So,
presentation.
So let me just mute. Thank you. So we should be very, very grateful, right? For Srila Prabhupada, for Krishna, right? For helping us. Give me a second, please. Yeah, we should be very grateful, right, for getting this platform, because this is the real jewel which no other educational institute in the world teaches. Okay, Srila Prabhupada, when he went to US, he went to some big university. I cannot recall the name, and then he said, "You have so many departments, right? But there is no department who can tell what is the real purpose of the life." It is something not to just discuss and then move further. Okay, it is something we should go really deep. We are giving everything to our children, starting from their diapers, okay, till school education and getting them married, and so many things we are doing. Okay, but what is the purpose of everything? If we don't tell, then we remain lost. We will be busy. There is no doubt, because there are so many things in the world, so many distractions, which can never let you settle peacefully. Okay. For example, before we discuss, before we start our any session, just in 1 minute or 30 seconds, we quickly discuss. Today, this is how it is going to help us. Okay, so having an agenda is very, very important. Okay, we all do the chanting. Why? So that we can please the Lord. If the Lord is pleased, our senses, we will be pleased. Okay, but every single day when we start our japa, we must still, time and again, every day, pray to the Lord. Oh Lord, let me chant more attentively, never like before, so that I can please you even more. We should not. We may be doing the chanting for an hour and a half, or 2 hours, or more than 2 hours. Good. Before we start even our chanting, that agenda and that the prayer must be very, very clear. But why we forget sharing that same agenda to ourselves and spend our whole life just doing the things without the direction? So these words of Krishna and the explanation by Srila Prabhupada is setting that foundation. On top of that, we can make any building. We can be into any part of the world with any association. Okay, if we are firmly convinced what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say here, we will end up giving them association, not taking their association. Okay, now moving to the next two set of slokas, 54 and 55 are very, very important. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu madbhakti labate param. Yes, Sudha Mataji, please read the translation. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Purport also I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji, this is maybe you can read one paragraph and then second paragraph.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Purport
Yes,
by His
you
Divine
have
Grace
it.
Srila Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Bhuta stage, becoming one with the Absolute is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called Brahma Bhuta, oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute One cannot render service unto him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. Yet the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mata. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let me request Sindhu Mataji now to read the second paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all the dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain because he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment because he knows that every living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone as higher and someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the Brahmabhuta stage, and this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poison teeth are broken. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached the pure devotional service in this age.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So Prabhupada has used very strong words, nice analogies here. So now this shloka helps us to know that we need to live in present. Okay, how? Because a person who is there in the Brahma Buddha stage, he is always prasannatma, always fully joyful. Na sochati, na kankshati. Sochati means neither he laments nor he desires. Okay, so why we do lament? Because we feel there was something in past which we could have done better. What if this would have happened like that? That is sochati. And kankshati, what if I get this? So we forget to live in the present, and we are always either in the past or in the future. So for a devotee or for a sadhaka, what we have in our hand at the moment is this present. Okay. Now, if we make this present moment full of Krishna consciousness, then the same moment is going to become past in another few seconds, like it became now. It is 12:11, 12:12 now in India. See, while talking only, when I was saying 12:11, the time changed to 12:12. So now, when we are focusing on our present, the past will become glorious. And we have discussed this in the 2.3.17 in the recent class. Ayur Harti Vai Pumsam. The sun is eating the day and night for everybody else, except those who are in the bhakti. Why it is not affecting those who are in bhakti? Because they are coming more closer to the Lord. Okay, sun cannot eat the life of devotees. So we have discussed about past, and of course, if we keep on chanting, right, any moment that will come in future, what we will be doing. For example, Prabhupada takes this example, right? Typewriter. If a typewriter goes to hell, what it will do? Tuck, 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 tuck. Typing. If it comes on earth, what it will do? Same, tuck, 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 typing. If it goes to higher platform, same thing. So for a devotee, whether, for example, let us take our morning time only. Okay, today is 13th July. What we will be doing on 20th July morning? Same, chanting. 21st July, same, chanting. 31st July, same, morning, chanting. 31st August 2024, same, chanting. So it is future. Yes, some future we discussed 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year back, later. But okay, we are the followers of Rupa Goswamis, Rupa Nugas we are called, right? Haridas Thakur is our Namacharya. what was Haridas Thakur doing when he was 20 years old, 25 years old? He was chanting, right? So for a devotee, there is no room for any other material thought to come in the mind, and they are always joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity, because then only, again, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of this capitalist and communist. So they both want to become an example and help their own theory. Okay, communists think if the resources of the society are spreaded equally, then everybody will be happy. But we forget that those resources are limited. Okay, the amount of happiness that those resources will give is also limited. The real communism is basically to spread the Krishna consciousness, because that is unlimited. How we can satisfy our unlimited desires with limited resources divided equally in the society? It will exhaust, and we will need more. We will need more. It is not possible. But if this Krishna consciousness is distributed to everybody, we will be satisfied with what we have. Krishna consciousness does not mean end of action. It means action in Krishna consciousness. It is one of our chapters also, right? In the beginning, chapter 5. So once a person comes to, very scholarly person comes to Srila Prabhupada, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was also there, and he was saying, I have read Bhagavad Gita very, very thoroughly. And then the question that Maharaj asks, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, so now what you will do? And he was surprised. Do means what? So why we are discussing this example now? We are towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, reading Bhagavad Gita is very, very important. Okay. Now, what action we are going to take? Arjuna, his entire course of actions changed before he heard Bhagavad Gita, how he was planning, how he was lamenting, and after Bhagavad Gita, how it is going to change our life. Question to ourselves. Okay, so next is, it is mentioned that he's he looks at everybody equally. So one of the principal characteristics of pure devotional service is Subhada, okay, as it is mentioned by Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. So everyone is dear to him, and he is dear to everybody. Okay, it is the anga of pure devotional service. Okay, so we must at least in theory pray to the Lord, oh Lord, when will I get that day when I don't have to spend my present for unnecessary thinking of past and the unnecessary planning of future. Okay, if we are in Krishna consciousness, our whole time in Goloka Vrindavana, it is always present. We cannot think of the time of Goloka. This is what Srila Prabhupada has mentioned, because everything is happening. It is in present only. Okay, so we'll go to the next sloka. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. Let me request Padma Mataji to please read the translation and the first paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Bhaktya mamabhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato nyatva vishate tad anantaram. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One can understand me as I am, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. As always stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. He is not revealed to everyone. No one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful.
Thank you, Mataji. Now, okay. You can read one more paragraph, Mataji.
Okay.
Yeah.
One who is fully conversant with Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. Such knowledge is never vanquished, even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there. The same individuality is there, yes, but in pure Krishna consciousness. One should not mistakenly think that the word Vishate enters into me. Supports the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No, Vishate means that one can enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord in one's individuality to engage in his association and render service unto him. For instance, a green bird enters a green tree, not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for impersonalists, but the personalist keeps his personal individuality like an aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean if you go deep. Surface acquaintances with ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean depths. Yes. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand.
Mataji will give the chance to
yeah, okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Let me request Navakeshwari Mataji now to read the next two paragraphs.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulences of the Supreme Lord in truth. As it is stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand. The same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom. After attainment of the Brahma Bhuta stage of freedom from material conception, devotional service begins by once hearing about the Lord. When one hears about the Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahma Bhuta stage develops and the material contamination, greediness and lust for sense enjoyment disappears. As lust, need and desires disappear from the heart of a devotee, he becomes more attached to the service of the Lord. And by such attachment, he becomes free from material contamination. In the state of life, he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam also. After liberation, the process of bhakti or transcendental service continues. The Vedanta Sutra 4.1.12 confirms this. Prayanatat tatrapi hi drashtam. This means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, real devotional liberation is defined as a reinstatement of the living entity in his own identity, his own constitutional position. The constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is a part and parcel, fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his constitutional position is to serve. After liberation, this service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from misconceptions of life. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat. So there are many takeaways from this verse. We'll read the translation once more. One can understand me as I am. Krishna is telling the formula to know who can know him. Not artificially, as I am, okay, as he is, okay, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. There is no other way. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. This is a formula how we can know Krishna and how we can go to him. So very important points here, like Naham Prakasa Sarvasya. He is not revealed to everyone. Everyone can claim that I have understood. Okay, but only those to whom Krishna wants to reveal himself, only they are revealed. Krishna is independent. But devotional service is something which Krishna does not overlook. If we have the real desire to serve the Lord is always there with us. He is there with us anyway. Okay? But with our true desire to serve him, he's always there. And university degree we discussed, right, are not helpful. Then this enters into me, Vishate. It does not mean that we go and merge into the Lord. We don't have to lose our identity. Our identity remains there always as a servant of the Lord. There are many misconceptions in the society. Okay, they take different examples. This is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Everybody finds something, some food for their thought, some reason to justify what they are thinking is right. Okay, they take the example of river merging into the ocean, and they think we will also merge. No, we are not here for merging. We are here to serve. By merging, we want to remain away from the action. That is not the principle of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita means follow the words of Krishna and do some action. Action means service. We are not here, okay, I have faced enough stress in this life. Oh, Krishna, just accept me because I don't want to do anything now. I have done enough here. No, that should not be our mood. Okay. Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, right? Sadeva Ashant. Krishna Bhakta Shuddha Ateva Shant. Shloka is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, like this. So we don't have to desire for even the liberation. The desire for liberation and the desire for sense gratification, both are like the Pishachini. Now, how we can know all these things, right? How we can, no one can, this point I wanted to discuss, no one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, only that person can understand Krishna. So in this regard, once Srila Prabhupada was chanting, okay, so when he was chanting and he started, tears were coming out from his eyes. And one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I do not have the reference, the name of the disciple. So he saw Srila Prabhupada. He was tears coming and saying, amazing, amazing. And when the disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, okay, about that incident, and then Srila Prabhupada mentioned that if you read my Krishna book, okay, then the Krishna's name, forms, all those pastimes, you will see happening. You will see them happening in front of your eyes, okay, when you are fully absorbed in chanting. Means when we are chanting more and more attentively, okay, with the full mode of surrenderness, then the name of the Lord reveals Naam, Roop, Guna, Leela, step by step. We first become more attached with the Nama, then we start seeing Krishna's form, Naam, Rupa, Guna, his qualities, and Leela, his pastimes. All those pastimes, because Prabhupada was there at that platform. He could see the pastimes of the Lord, as mentioned in Krishna book. When he's chanting, he can always experience that. But he mentioned, like, when you are deeply absorbed in chanting, you can see those pastimes within the chanting. So we have to take the shelter of those our acharyas, our Maharaj, senior Maharaj. Never leave any opportunity. Life is very momentarily. It can go anytime. Okay. So one may say that I may not be able to satisfy Krishna. Krishna's standard is very high. His expectations are very high. I'm not at that level. But then if he satisfy Srila Prabhupada, it will satisfy the Lord. Because Krishna says, if one says, I'm your devotee, he is not my devotee. If someone says, I am devotee of your devotee, then he is my devotee. So satisfying Srila Prabhupada should be our life and soul. And how we can do it? How we can be let us take a very mundane example. Many of us like, say, cricket. One of the very famous cricketer, right? Sachin Tendulkar. If we want to be a true follower of Sachin Tendulkar, and if we don't recognize who is Sachin Tendulkar, is that possible? If we just recognize, we need to go into the more and more detail. What he likes, what he does not like, what time he wakes up. We will go in each and every detail. Okay, coming back to that same thing now into Krishna consciousness. Why we should like Krishna? Because he is most merciful. And what he likes, what he says, all that we are trying to know. We should not read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam as we are something and these books are something and we are just trying to read them. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, these are our life instructions. As a beginner, when we were studying like English, right? We always used to carry a dictionary in our with us, right? Suddenly, if you are stuck, we will open this thing. These should be our that much reference. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita are our life and soul. What situation, what we should do, it is mentioned there. Last shloka. We will just take 2 more minutes, then we are done. Sarva kamani api sada kurvano mad vyapa shreyaha mat prasadad avapanoti sashvatam padam vyayam. We'll read the translation in the purport, please. And I see 2 hands. Yes, Rohini Mataji, you can read the translation, followed by Swati Mataji with the purport. If you want, you can
translation.
read the purport also. Oh, sorry, this shloka also you can recite, Mataji, if you want to.
Sarva karmanyaphi sada kurvano madhya vyapashrayah mat prasadata vapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Swati Mataji, you can read the
Krishna
purport, please.
Prabhupada. The word Madhyapashraya means under the protection of the Supreme Lord, to be free from material contamination. A pure devotee acts under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. There is no time limitation for a pure devotee. He is always 24 hours a day, 100% engaged in activities under the direction of Supreme Lord. To a devotee who is thus engaged in Krishna consciousness, the Lord is very, very kind. In spite of all difficulties, he eventually placed in the transcendental abode or Krishna Loka. He is guaranteed entrance there. There is no doubt about it. In that supreme abode, there is no change. Everything is eternal, imperishable, and full of knowledge. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you. Dandavad
Thank you,
Pranam.
Mataji. Swati Mataji. So, very quickly, like suppose if a person wants to become a bodybuilder, he will try to use his every single action in such a way that it helps him to make the body. We can take, like, starting from the drinking the water, okay, he will think what I can do, what change I can do in my drinking of water so that it helps me to make my body better. So maybe I'm just giving an example, I'm not expert. Maybe he will put some jeera water, right, or something, so that it becomes more, it helps him in digestion. And I have seen, I think, jeera water or something, or turmeric or something, right? And then for a devotee, okay, we have to be that much attached for our spiritual bodybuilding. So those dead time of the day when we are literally not doing anything, even those times we will be finding most blissful. For example, these were some of the instructions given by my seniors. So when we wake up, okay, we go to the bathroom to get fresh, and we do the brush, we take bath, right? Those times we have to be physically engaged. Let us put Srila Prabhupada's some lecture. Anyway, some thought has to come into the mind. Let the morning's time is very, very important. Why to give a room to any other like unnecessary thought to come in our mind? Fill it, keep it protected with Srila Prabhupada's lecture. Because right after that, we are going to do the chanting. If we give a room to some other thought, it is going to affect our chanting. Let us take care of that morning mind, okay, in so protective way that we don't use our any thought. No WhatsApp, please, for all of us. I'm speaking first for myself, okay? Because we may be opening the WhatsApp with the intention of maybe something related to Krishna. I will see. We will end up seeing something else also. Okay, so morning means very, very like horses they have some covers, right, so that they can see straight. Morning time when we wake up, we use it purely and purely for Krishna until we are done with the chanting. After that, you can open. The world will still exist. We can see the WhatsApp even then also. My mentor told me this thing, like last line, okay, for the today is this is our condition is when we are chanting, okay, we suddenly our phone WhatsApp some alarm, some it rings, okay, that we get the notification, right? So we feel this world will go from one direction to another and whole thing will be finished if I don't look at this WhatsApp message. That is usually our mood. Let me just see it. And then he said, you just experiment by not opening the WhatsApp for say 30 minutes, and then you will see the world is still existing. So nothing changed. So by world, what we mean is here our world of thoughts. Okay, physical world, nothing will change, but our this heart world of thoughts, so many things might change with the unnecessary message that we see. So well, coming back to the point, starting from our beginning of the day, okay, use it. Krishna will give the idea. Okay, how we can use every single moment of the day in the service of the Lord. Morning time was an example. When we are working in the kitchen, when we are going to sleep, when we are walking, and Krishna will help. Thank you so much, Prabhujis and Matajis. If you have any comments or questions, we can discuss. Sorry for the delay once again. And I guess this is our last session of Bhagavad Gita. I mean, because before next Thursday, I assume it will be over. So kindly bless me with your most strong prayers, and then so that I can follow at least a fraction of what I have said. Kindly forgive me if I have ever said anything which I should not have, and seek your blessings. Vaishnavas are like most merciful, and you will forgive me also. Thank you so much once again, Prabhujis and Matajis. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha
पतितानां
Pranam
पावनेभ्यो
pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
vaishnavebhyo
नमः।
Ananto
कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय।
Srila
Prabhupada ki jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. Dandat pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, all your talks on chanting and your tips, I mean, they have been very helpful in my journey. My chanting has become more intense because of the tips and, certain things that you have mentioned about chanting. The one which really resonated with me was 2 months ago when you said, when we are chanting, it's like the Lord is dancing on our lips. I mean, after that, after listening to that, I can't even imagine, how can one not get serious about chanting? So I'm very thankful for all your guidance on chanting, and please continue with Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mataji,
you,
for sharing it. I
Prabhuji.
was just a postman, Mataji. I just passed what I heard. Yes.
Hare Krishna
Your
Prabhuji.
question can
Yeah,
keep
thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Dandavat Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Samaruji.
I want a golden word from at your end, which is to be adapted in our regular life, particularly in this class. What you have told last 1 hour, one golden word. It must be come from your mouth only. That it is to be admitted, and it is to be get in practice in our daily life. Regularly, you are giving some tips to develop in Krishna consciousness. Whereas in this verse, I want to hear from you at your end.
Okay. If we satisfy Srila Prabhupada, we satisfy Krishna. So I heard it and I'm just repeating it, Prabhuji. So how we can serve Srila Prabhupada should be our motive of the life. And best way of serving any person in this world is by paying them attention, attentive hearing. So please, our connection will be temporary. We will be meeting some other time, some other day. Your connection with your Krishna is permanent, and Srila Prabhupada is the chain of that connection. Okay, so satisfying Srila Prabhupada should be our only motive of the life, Prabhuji. I'm saying to you and to myself also. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, can you say that chant like this is your last, the one which you had said? Chant like this is your last and read. You had said it in one of your earlier discourses. We should chant like this is our last.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Mataji. So when we chant, we should chant as if it is going to be our last day of the life. And when we read the Shastras, the purports of Srila Prabhupada, then we should read them as if we are going to live for a very, very long time. Because when we read
thank you.
Because when we read, we should not be in a hurry. Because Srila Prabhupada is sharing, opening his heart. he is sharing what he is experiencing with the Lord, and we are reading. Sorry, we are reading the purpose. Tuck, 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 tuck. Means we should be also equally respectful and giving more and more time, because idea is not to by heart or read all 700 slokas. Idea is to follow one sloka, but to the maximum possible extent in our capacity. Capacity also Lord will give. Okay, so yeah, does that answer, Mataji, this one?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much once again, Guruji and Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. I'm ending the session with your permission, Mataji.